Welcome to Cardboard Content, where we aim to develop our skills and grow the competitive Commander community. Hi guys, it's me Benedict. We have some cool decks for you today. I stray away from the typical meta, but before that, we have our new event coming up, Dark Side Derby. It's happening Sunday, February 23rd. Hope to see you guys there. More info after the game, which is right here. Starting in our upper right hand corner, we have Sergio playing RogSi with a starting hand of 7. Then we have Rob playing Tana Silas with a starting hand of 6. Ben back at it again with Dargo Francisco, starting hand 7. And then we have Matt with Thrasios-Tevesh, starting hand of 7. Sergio starts us off with a Shocked-In Watery Grave, Chromox imprinting a Chain of Vapor, then cast Demonic Tutor into a Mox Opal into his commander Rogak. He passes turn to Rob. Rob plays Command Tower into a Carpet of Flowers, moves on to second main phase, triggers Carpet of Flowers, and casts Deathrite Shaman. We move on to Ben's turn. He plays Great Furnace into Wizard's Rockets, then plays a Mox Amber. We move on to Matt's turn. He plays an Ancient Tomb into a Fell Warstone. We move on to the second turns. Sergio plays a Polluted Delta, fetches for an Underground Sea, then casts Rhystic Study. Passes turn to Rob. Rob triggers Carpet of Flowers, makes 2 black mana, plays Emergence Zone, then casts Dalthi Voidwalker, triggering Rhystic Study and paying for it. We move on to Ben's turn. He plays Mishra's Workshop, casts Relic of Legends, triggers Rhystic Study, Sergio draws. Then he plays his commander Francisco, triggers Rhystic Study again, Sergio draws again. On Matt's turn, he plays Wishclaw Talisman, triggers Rhystic Study, Sergio draws. Matt plays Elvish Mystic, and then Sergio draws again. We move on to Sergio's turn. He plays City of Brass into a Soul Ring, then passes to Rob. Rob triggers his Carpet of Flowers, shocks in a Blood Crypt, and then casts Fairy Mastermind, paying for Rhystic Study. On Ben's turn, he plays Ancient of the Shadow Thieves, triggers Rhystic Study, and pays. He moves into combat, triggers Agent of the Shadow Thieves. Francisco gets 1 counter. Tiny Bones joins up with Francisco, and then passes turn to Matt. On Matt's turn, he plays Tropical Island into a Talisman of Curiosity, triggers Rhystic Study, he pays, then casts his commander Thrasios, triggers Rhystic Study again, and then pays again. We move on to Sergio's 4th turn, and he plays Marsh Flats into a Grinding Station, and then passes turn to Rob. Rob triggers Carpet of Flowers, then plays Watery Grave, then casts Harmfell, triggers Rhystic Study, Sergio draws, then passes to Ben. Ben plays Vault of Whispers, moves into combat, triggers Agent, and then reveals Reckless Handling with Francisco. Then casts Tiny Bones Joins Up, triggers Rhystic Study. Rob responds with a Veil of Summer, triggers Rhystic Study, Sergio draws, Veil resolves, Rob draws a card, and then Tiny Bones ETB resolves. Matt pitches a Into the Floodmaw, being exiled with Dalthi Voidwalker, and a Wooded Foothills, also being exiled. We move on to Matt's turn. He casts his other commander, Tevesh, triggers Rhystic Study, and pays for it. On Matt's end step, Sergio cracks his Marsh Flats for Undercity Sewers to Surveil. Also on Matt's end step, Sergio casts Snap, targeting Dalthi Voidwalker. Matt responds by tutoring up Fierce Guardianship, casting it, paying for the Rhystic trigger, and then countering Snap. We move on to Sergio's turn, and he casts Tainted Pact. Sergio goes through his deck and stops at Underworld Breach. Then cast Rite of Flame, then cast Underworld Breach into a Wheel of Fortune. Rob responds by pitching Culling the Weak to Harmfell and exiling a Bayou and Lively Dirge. Ben responds with a Pyroblast, targeting Rhystic Study and triggering Rhystic Study. Sergio draws and then triggers Fairy Mastermind. He draws a card. Sergio responds with a Pact of Negation, targeting Pyroblast. Rob responds by pitching a Ragavan to Harmfell and getting a Mystical Tutor and a Vampiric Tutor. Matt responds by casting Pact of Negation, targeting Wheel of Fortune, triggering Rhystic Study. Pact of Negation resolves, countering Wheel of Fortune. We move to Sergio's end step, and Rob casts Vampiric Tutor, triggering Rhystic Study. Sergio draws. We move to Rob's turn. He triggers Carpet of Flowers, getting 3 red, and then casts Reality Scramble, targeting Harnfell, triggering Rhystic Study. Rob pays, and Rob reveals a bolus of Citadel. He casts Rhystic Study, triggers Rhystic Study. Sergio draws. He plays Otawara. He sacks Dalthi Voidwalker to cast Sergio's Underworld Breach. Triggers Rhystic Study. Sergio draws, and then triggers Fairy Mastermind, and then Rob draws. Rob casts Animate Dead, triggering Rhystic Study. Brings back Dalthi Voidwalker. He casts Simeon Spirit Guide, triggering Rhystic Study. Then Rob Breach casts Vampiric Tutor, triggers Rhystic Study, then casts Beseech the Mirror, bargaining Carpet of Flowers, triggering Rhystic Study, then cast a Dark Ritual, triggering Rhystic Study again, then cast Gitaxian Probe, triggering Rhystic Study, then cast Hoarding Broodlord, again triggering Rhystic Study. He casts Burnt Offering, letting Sergio draw again with Rhystic Study. He recasts Beseech the Mirror, bargaining Dance of the Dead, triggering Rhystic Study and paying this time. Then he casts Praetor's Grasp, triggering Rhystic Study and paying for it. Then grabbing Brain Freeze and casting it, triggering Rhystic Study and paying for it once again. Then animates Hoarding Broodlord and triggers Rhystic Study again. Tutors up and casts a Cabal Ritual, triggers and pays for Rhystic Study, recasts Burnt Offering, getting more mana again, recasts Animate Dead, triggering and paying for Rhystic Study, and targeting Thassa's Oracle. Then responds by sacrificing Wizard's Rockets to draw a card and make a mana. Animate Dead resolves, ETB triggers, Rob responds with a Tainted Pact, paying for Rhystic Study. Thassa's resolves, and Rob wins the game. What a game, Rob. I'm so baffled by Rob's play line, but here we listen and we don't judge. Endgame summation. For the most part, we could say people did a pretty good job of paying for Sergio's Rhystic Study tax. Sergio pointed out to me he did have the opportunity to mill Rob's top deck tutors. It requires timing. Personally, I would have waited on the Tainted Pact. I would have tried to accrue value with the Rhystic in play and having other people cast things. Matt, the Wishclaw Tutor counterspell is a hard call in my opinion. You have two players after Sergio that can make a win attempt, so you use one counterspell on one person, but then you have to go through two other people. In my opinion, that's when yapping comes into play more than any game action at that point. But that's something I also have to learn. Rob, I have no clue what led you to believe that was the most optimal path for you to win, but kudos to you for doing 20 steps on a 2-step shuffle. And if you enjoy these types of games and think you can do 30 steps on top of Rob's 20 and want to show off your gameplay actions, you can join us Sunday 23rd at Darkside Games for Darkside Derby. You can head to topdeck.gg to register. Please do if you are interested. The event will start at 1 p.m. More info on that and on Top Deck linked down below. Also down below, of course, is that subscribe, follow, and share button. If you guys could be ever so kind and share this video. If you want to be even more generous, I have a Patreon to support the channel and get a shout out like these beautiful people. Our tier 2 content consumers: Big Yoda at 12, Marcus at 10, Dylan at 9, Troy at 9, Rodrigo at 6, Gwen at 4. And now our tier 3 cardboard cutouts: Wong at 14, Matt at 14, Albert at 13, and Joiner at 8. Thank you guys for your continued support. If you would like to support the channel like these beautiful people, please join us at patreon.com/cardboardcontent. See you guys next time for more content.